grateful we are that you're here. I wasn't going to do that. And just how amazing it is that a year later, and after 22 years of not really being able to communicate, there are still people who want to be here. Dad, and so thank you all so much. And this is a chance to tell stories for a few minutes. So I don't have any really great stories because most of what I remember is he was a great dad. And as most of you know, he was very generous. And there was a lot that he did that I think nobody knew. One of the things I found out is I can't even read it. My best friend growing up sent a beautiful tribute. He did things for her that I never knew. That she wanted to share. And I always have stories of the adventures they had at Moss. Dave Fanning, where are you? I think you two have a lot of stories.
More than I want to share.
Well, the ones you can share with your children here. And I believe Jim Halloran and Ron Lancaster might have a story or two as well to share about some adventures they had. So,
go first?
Sure.
Actually, can I go first?
Sorry.
Oh, of course. You can hear you now.
Great hire. Go ahead.
Turn off the fans if you can.
Okay.
If we want them back on, just let me know. That way you guys can see. Okay.
So, yeah, what she said, I mean, this is cool. You know, I'm going to cry. That's okay. Thank you all. This is just like all different people from all different parts of Dad's life here. And this is really, really neat, especially a year later. So we're talking with Denise. Where's Denise? The amazing, well, she's somewhere. She's the caterer in charge of this event. And she's awesome. We're setting up the memory table and she's asking all these questions about it. And we happen to mention, you know, yeah, he had, you know, this amazing buried life and he had 3 wives. And she was like, he had 3 wives. And Katie said, yeah, and they're all 3 gonna be.
They're all three.
So with that said,
Raise your hand, wives.
yes, to Joanna, to JP, to Diane, the wives of Dad.
The wives that took care of it.
Pretty cool. I also want to share a story. Charlie said he didn't want to talk, but then you tell me if I did something wrong.
Okay.
He can do that. He can tell you when you're wrong.
When the 2 favorite men in my life met. Charlie and I hadn't been dating very long, and I was having an appliance delivered, like I think a stove.
Stove in a refrigerator.
And stove and a refrigerator. Okay.
What are you doing with appliances?
Pretty nice.
I've heard people cook. I don't know. And so Dad said, "Oh yeah, I'll meet them there and take a receipt of it because I needed to work." And the more I thought about it, the more I got nervous. This was post-stroke, and you know, they're delivering, and Dad can't talk. So I said to Charlie, you know, can you do me a really big favor? Can you just be there too, just to make sure everything goes smoothly? So that was the day Charlie, the man I was dating, and my father met without me in the picture at all. And then a couple days later, that same week, right, was Saturday, which is an event called Circus McGurkus, which for those who are local or who are aware, it's a hippie tie-dye fest put on by the Society of Quakers. And it's been going on since the 60s. And that Saturday morning I woke up and I didn't feel good. But Dad wanted to go. I mean, he showed up at my door because that's what he did. He didn't answer the phone. He didn't. So Charlie said, well, your dad and I will go. So, you know, first of all, picturing Dad in this hippie tie-dye Circus McGurkus place, which was new for him, but after the stroke, he was open to a lot of weird new things. So,
Go home, baby.
they went and they saw all there was to see. Charlie bought a lot of things, like trinkets and jewelry and things that he knew that I would like. And I think maybe that's what did it for Dad.
I got a lot of that.
You got a lot of that. Dad just kept saying, "You love my daughter and you're buying her shit. All right."
And I don't have to.
So, there were the two main men in my life were very, very close friends, and I'm really lucky for that. So thank you.
Let me explain something about this.
Yes.
So for
Yes.
y'all who don't know us growing up, I met Donna when we were 13 years old, and we became best friends immediately. And there was a lot in this that I never knew about her life. And she was at our house a lot. And some of you probably knew her. She's a very sweet Southern girl. She still is. She lives in Ecuador though, so she couldn't be here. So,
And she's an amazing writer.
Yeah.
And she's an amazing writer.
she's a writer. Yes, she is a writer.
So my name is Leo Vinchain, and I came to know Dawn probably much later than a lot of you here today, but just the same, it's an honor to be here, and Katie asked me to read this on behalf of Donna, who could not be here today, and so I'm just going ahead and start with it. They say when you are a child at risk, that one person shows you love and make a difference in how your life turns out. That person for me was Donald Noyes. Donald was a big part of my salvation, providing the counterweight to a desperate situation and showing me that there are good men and great fathers. I met Katie Noyes, his daughter, when I was 13 and living in a volatile situation, which I really didn't discuss, but she knew. I credit Katie with saving my life, as her home was my haven, where I could go every day after school to play, eat snacks, and avoid what could be termed an unsafe environment. Soon I was spending the weekends as well. I secretly pretended that the Noyes were my own family, and that I was his daughter, and that one day this pretty much would come true. My senior year of high school, I was left parentless due to circumstances beyond my control. I literally had no place to go when the Noyes said I could live with them. I felt my dream had come true. Donald showed me what a good father was. I was always a scattered child, and every morning before heading off to school, he would help me find my books and purse. When I worked late at my job as a hostess at Red Lobster, he would pick me up if needed, even if it was late. Although I didn't have a formal curfew, he made sure I checked in when I got home. Those little things that fathers do, I felt safe and protected. Don always had a place in my heart as a surrogate dad. I wished I would have told him about his kindness and what it meant to me. To thank him for showing me that there were good men out there. He set the bar high, and as of what it means to be a father and a husband. And thanks to this one man, I finally had a standard to understand what it means to be a man. I will miss him terribly until one day when we meet again in heaven. I'm sure we will joke about me constantly losing things. I'm sure he will hug me, and once again, I will understand what love feels like. One person can make a difference, and that person for me was Donald Noyes.
Anybody want to share a story?
I got a lot of stories, but I moved to
Kind of come over to this side so we can catch you on film so we can really have proof of what you're saying.
but I came to St. Petersburg from Orlando in 1967. The only person I knew was Don Noyes. and obviously Joanna. They were wonderful. They invited me over to home. Lifelong friends. But anyway, I'll try to light up and give you a funny story. Don had a trainee coming. He said, I got to train this guy, and no problem, until he found out it was Jim Howard's father. Jim's father was Nick Howard, who was the chief financial officer of Hallmark Cards. So he looked at me and he's going, what am I going to do? I said, you're looking at me, huh? But anyway, long story short, Jim came. They were a little tight for a bit, but loosened up after a group or two, and worked out perfect. Lifelong friends.
Some of the details here. Yeah, I was the spoiled brat kid that came in, and Don was definitely. Boy, what's the training? Probably about the last 8 weeks, playing games, something like that. Something like that. And I want to tell you, for the first 2 weeks, he picked me up at 8, he dropped me off at 5:30. We followed every damn rule in the book. I had to mark everything off. I mean, he was a real drill sergeant kind of guy. And so you can tell that he was, he was a snitch, I guess. But 2 weeks into it, we're driving back, I think for some reason we were in Ocala. I don't know why we would have been up there. But he found me about 4 o'clock in the afternoon and he said, look, you want to stop and get a beer? And I'm thinking, yeah. But we don't just stop and get a beer. Don pulls in this strip place. we spend the next 2 hours drinking with the strippers. And for the next 6 weeks, we stop at the bar every day.
Go ahead. I know you've got one or two. Yes.
I'm glad we got the lightweights out of the way.
I can hear you.
I won't say I've known Don the longest, because I'm not quite sure when Don and Joanna met. But I knew Don from college. That was 1948. We lived in the same dormitory. We weren't really close buddies, but there were only 27 of us in this huge building in Providence, Rhode Island. I went to Bryant College, business college. And so you got to know the guys pretty good, because after school you got on to a place called Bovie's. That's where he learned to drink beer, I think. Or at least he took his second step in drinking beer. I'm not sure when. If you could throw your dime up, you could get a dime at beer at Bovie's. That's number one. We knew each other in college. Years later, I was with Hallmark Cars in Denver, Colorado. They sent me to Idaho. Wonderful state. I had the state of Idaho, Utah, a little bit of Oregon, great big piece of Wyoming. The only Hallmark guy out there that spent 2 weeks before he got back home. So they finally said to me, how do you like to go to Florida? I said, oh boy, are you kidding? Florida sounds wonderful. Yeah. My first meeting with Hallmark was at a breakfast. It was a district meeting, and looked across the booth there, and there was this guy that looked familiar. So I said, we know each other somewhere. I can't recall where. He said, Fifth Army. I said, well, no, I was in the Air Force. I said, how about Cook Street, Bryant College, 1948? He says, God, Dave Fanning. So that's number two, Hallmark. And we spent a lot of years together, training guys like these two characters over here. We were a very friendly group. We had a lot of fun together. I got transferred to Miami. Don was here in territory. It was South Carolina, Columbia, and he got transferred to St. Pete. I went to Miami. We just got through a Christmas meeting. Now this is a pretty big deal for Hallmark. Go through a Christmas meeting. They give you your bonus, which you end up with a little bit of money. You know, this is what you work for all year long, a big bonus. Don Noyes calls me and says, how'd you like to buy into a motel? I mean, this check hadn't even been cashed. So he says, yeah, I got a buddy up here by the name of Ron Lancaster. You, me, and I'm getting all screwed up here, but anyway, Don, Ron, myself, says we can buy this piece of property for $10,000 down. I said, oh, Jesus, Don, you're taking about my bonus. Believe it or not, we started buying this piece of property every year, $10,000 bucks. Can you believe this? We get down $10,000 now for a piece of property for $35,000.
1968.
1968. Thank you. Yeah, that's about right. So anyway, the seashell was another part of our lives together, and that could take hours and hours to discuss. Yeah. Then the Civitan, he got me to join the Civitan. We had golf tournaments, we drank beer, we played poker. We did all kinds of wonderful things together. The Jungle Product comes into mind. Those are the days that Mary owned it. Who the hell knew Mary's last name? But everybody was there. It was a great time. Nobody knew Mary's last name. Joanna's father, Hollis Poor, was part of that congregation of people. And just remember, after I met Don for the first time here at a meeting, he said, my mother-in-law and father-in-law live in St. Petersburg, and I'd like to have you go meet them. So he told me someplace out in St. Pete, so that's where I met Joanna's father, Hollis Poor, for the first time. That's a whole new story in itself. But anyway, Don and I knew each other a long time. We had a wonderful drinking period. We thought, you know, if they're going to make this stuff, we're going to drink as much of it as we possibly could. We never caught up with the production, but I'll tell you, we tried hard. But anyway, I would say that I've known him a long time. He was one of my very best friends. It breaks your heart when you start seeing your best friends passing away. The Hallmark guys, you know what I'm saying. We got a lot of guys that aren't here with us anymore. And we're happy to be here, aren't we? Yes. To Don Noyes.
That was awesome, dude. Totally awesome.
I'm a boy from back when he lived in South Carolina. 1954, I was a freshman in college, and I lived in an apartment I was married. We lived in a duplex right next door to the door. And our dogs got us to know each other. He had a dog named Limbo. Three-legged Boston Bull Terrier.
Remember that dog? It was ugly.
Well, I had a dachshund, small dachshund.
4 legs?
It had 4 legs. Limbo and my dachshund was named Brizzy. He had a big chest. And those dogs were too friendly, particularly when my dog went in the heat. And Don and I spent one Saturday afternoon cutting up one of his old baseball gloves, making a chastity belt for my dog. And it worked. But it was a messy proposition. We had a lot of drinking back then too. And I was poor as a church mouse. Couldn't buy stuff. Don taught me how to make beer. We made homebrew in a closet in his house. We had a 5-gallon acid carboy that we would ferment the beer in, and we would bottle it in a bottle and put a little bit of sugar in it and cap it. And the sugar fermented and made it fish. Well, we learned the hard way, you don't bottle beer in old used beer bottles because they blow up. You have to use Pepsi bottles, which are recyclable and real thick glass. We farted a lot in those days, and one time we had a party, and the beer wasn't ready to bottle. So we hoisted the carboy up on top of the refrigerator and got a red bag of some, I don't know, bag had a rubber hose on it with a clip on it. We did a siphon in the bag. We just walked by, unclip it, pull up our barefoot to drink. And we drank that whole thing dry one night. It was terrible.
Yeah.
The other drinking thing I remember with Don was we had a place up in Saluda, North Carolina, in the mountains. And the trouble with Saluda was it was a dry county. And we had to drive down the mountains to Tryon to get whiskey. So Don and I decided to go down and line up here the last, not the whiskey the last weekend. And coming back, we decided we didn't want to wait. So we came up the back road, and there was a spring, a mountain spring with a cast iron pipe stuck in the mountain. Water was coming out of it. So we decided we had some cups, so we could pour them over and then filled it up. And before we got back in the car, it had turned dark, cold black. With panic acid in the ground, it turned that. And we debated, and Don decided that we ought to go ahead and try it. But it was mostly gone by the time we got to the top. Anyway, Don and I remained friends for a long time. I visited him a lot down here, and he visited me for several moves I've had since then. And the families have stayed in touch ever since. I still consider him very, very close.
Anybody else? Then it's time to have a party.
Go down to top, please.